Jose Rizal. He was a lover of the arts and music. He was a famous linguist and optometrist. But most of all, he was a Filipino national hero. Through his novels and his writing, he revealed the atrocities of the Spanish regime and inspired young Filipinos to fight for his freedom. This is his story. To my beautiful Philippines, my name is Jose Rizal, born June 19, 1861, Calamba, Laguna. I'm writing to you, my country and my people, for when you read this, I will be dead. Tomorrow at 7 in the morning, I will be shot. But I am not guilty of the crime of rebellion. I will die with a clean conscience. Very early on, I had learned to obey. Very early on, I had learned to swallow in silence tears of anger and humiliation. And so I learned how to read, and to write, and to think, in a language that was not my own, and pledge my loyalty to a foreign regime that promised peace, yet preached injustice. Because we were at the mercy of the Spanish friars that forced Filipinos to work day and night, to build lavish estates using money that was meant for schools and churches. Friars that controlled every aspect of education and silenced voices of reasoning and enlightenment. Spanish friars that subjected proud Filipinos to brutal racism and humiliation. But this can no longer be our fate, for there are no tyrants if there are no slaves.
In 1882, Jose Rizal boarded a ship to Europe to complete his studies as an optometrist. However, despite being in the midst of completing his studies, he still knew that he had to somehow put an end to the injustice back home. And so, he wrote himself into a novel as the main character, Crisostomo Ibarra, a bright young Filipino returning home upon completing his studies in Europe. But this wasn't just any other story. No. This was a story of love and passion. A story of heroes and villains. A story of corruption. And a story of betrayal.
But most of all, this was a way for Jose Rizal to show to the rest of the world, with his novel, No Le Metangere, the corruption and atrocities of the Spanish regime. His novels spread like wildfire, first being published in Europe, and then slowly reaching Asia, first striking Hong Kong, until they were carefully smuggled in to the Philippines. And like striking a match, the rebellion had been sparked. The art of optometry is extremely complex. Operating on one's eye is like looking into their soul and trying to mend its broken fragments. One slight miscalculation, and they will be rendered blind forever. Performing these operations terrify me, but God has given me this talent, and to not fulfill my duty would be a sin that I could not live with. And so I sit about my clinic, working tirelessly, to relieve the pain and suffering to those that have been blinded to what the rest of the world has to offer. And I cure them. It is a dangerous job, but it is mine, and it must be done. Upon publishing his revolutionary novel, No Le Metangere, among others, Jose Rizal was declared an enemy of the Spanish government, and against his family's wishes, he returned to Manila in 1892. Come June of the same year, he was exiled from Manila, and in November, brought to Fort Santiago to be imprisoned.
Jose Matasha Rizal, the principal organizer and the living soul of the Filipino insurrection, is convicted for the founding of societies, periodicals, and books dedicated to fomenting and propagating the ideas of rebellion. It will be publicly executed as a criminal on the 31st of December at 7 in the morning.
I do not write for this generation. I write for other ages. Some may burn my books, the works of my entire life. But in the future, those that will interpret my writing, they will be an educated generation. And they will say, not all were asleep in the nighttime of my grandparents. I have always loved my unfortunate country and will love her until the day that I die. I shall die blessing her and wishing for her the dawn of redemption. In the crowd, I see all of you. The Spanish that rejoice over my execution, for I am a threat to your influence and your power. But I also see the young Filipinos, brave enough to stand tall amongst those that oppress you. This is not the end. This is just the beginning of our fight to freedom. No, I do not fear death. Instead, I welcome it like an old friend. And as it comes to embrace me, I smile. My purpose has been fulfilled. And so, at 7 in the morning, the soldiers fired their final gunshot, and Dr. Jose Portasio Rizal died facing the sun. As he said his last words, "Consummatum est." It has been done. Colonialism, revolution, and heroism. Do you think that the message of this piece portrayed any of that? Thanks. So what do you think the message actually was? Like, what did you guys take away from my piece?
Those people who think about the future think well beyond themselves. They're more selfless than most people. Think into the future and know that what they write and what they say can have an impact beyond their own lives, and that they should stand up against oppression.
Yeah. So basically, I wanted to show a couple of messages. First was the importance of education throughout history. So the use of education as a weapon instead of violence. Because there was a lot of the things that I was saying was actually quotes that he actually wrote in a lot of his writings. So one of my favorite quote from him was, on this battlefield, there is no stronger weapon than one's intelligence and no braver force than one's heart. So that's kind of the backbone of my piece. Second, so the entirety of this piece is based on real events throughout Filipino history. He actually is my great-great-great-granduncle. What do you think the significance of retelling the story was? Like, in just the wider scheme. Yeah.
Well, it's so rich because for you, obviously, personally, it's so part of your story, so it helps you understand who you are, who you are, who you think you are, and it's just a really nice universal message to everybody about standing up against systems and empowering oppressed, empowering and liberating oppressed people. It's wonderful.
And finally, throughout my piece, I used narration, so I went in and out of the characters. So whenever I was him, I could put the hat on, and when I narrated, I took off the hat. Do you think this was a helpful or effective way to portray the message and communicate the actual story? Yes. Yes.
Yeah, for sure. It's hard because you're trying to be two different characters because you have two different personas, so you need some kind of a symbol to set that off.